We are once again with Ethan Forman from the Gloucester Daily Times. Hi, Ethan. How are you doing?
Heather, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I am solo, but happy to be with you.
Yeah, give my regards to Corey.
I
I
will. I
miss
will.
him. I miss him
Yeah.
already.
So it's really hot out there. It's really dry out there. And apparently the city just imposed water restrictions. This is brand new. You want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, on Thursday, the city announced odd, even watering restrictions under the city ordinance. I guess they're allowed to do it. And so if you're living in a house with an odd number, you water on an odd number day. And if you live in a house with an even number, you water on an even day. And I don't know what people are going to do if they live like at 43 and a half. Is the half odd or no? So anyway, they're terming this mild drought-like conditions. So it's a mild drought-like condition. So
Yeah, that's surprising to me because it feels like an extreme drought to me. But I'm just sitting here in my house, so who knows?
we had rain, we had rain the other night, but we really
Yeah.
haven't had a lot.
Yeah.
So the weather, it's interesting because the weather's nice, and when you have a string of nice weather, everything gets dry.
Yeah. Right.
The city shared a number of tips to conserve water. I think they're being a little proactive. They want to conserve water.
Mhm.
Don't run the usual stuff. Don't run the water when you're brushing your teeth or shaving. All the tips, that I think people are pretty much aware of.
Right.
Bring your car to a car wash that saves, most of them are more high efficiency. Don't run don't let the water run while you're washing your car. So I don't
And
know,
this goes into effect
today.
maybe-
Oh, actually, no, on Thursday. So
Okay.
yeah, so it was yesterday. It was on, yeah.
All right. So evens and odds on even days, people with even addresses can water, and
Yeah.
the other way around. Okay.
Yeah, and I have to reach out to the city, and this is something that we just found out about. And I need to find out if there's an enforcement mechanism. I have to look at the code. I don't know if they're, how heavy they're probably going to enforce it. I think it's more messaging. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to have these into effect for 2 weeks until August 4th, and they're going to reevaluate it. Obviously, if we get like a heavy rainfall, the reservoirs come up, you may not need it. So they're it's temporary. And I think other cities and towns are also feeling kind of parched in the region, and they're also putting these in place. So Gloucester, I don't think it's not isolated to Gloucester.
Right. Well, let's move on and talk about the MBTA gate, which has been the subject of a lot of conversation in the past week. It's some say it's functioning fine, like the MBTA says it's functioning fine, but according to Jeff Worthley, 23 people on Facebook said that they experienced the gate coming down too quickly, maybe on their car. And according to your article, the former retired deputy fire chief, his wife had the same experience. So tell us what's going on there.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of this stemmed from a post that Steve Aiello had done. He was retired last year after 37 years. Tells a story of his wife and son in the car. Gate comes down, they stop, and then the gate comes up. And I guess, do you go? Cars in the station, trains in the station. So I guess what happened was she went to go. Her son made a remark about something like this happening in Wilmington. That was what the deputy fire chief Steve told me. And the gate came down on the car. What happened was, that happens. She backed up into the car in back of her.
Oh, yeah.
So
the gate hit her car, and then she backed up.
And she backs up into a car in back of her.
Yeah. So
it's like, it's like the idea is that the train is coming on them. So she, stops, the gate comes down, and then she backs up, So this is a complicated issue because the question is whether the gates are working properly, and whether I'm not going to talk about this instance because I'm not sure. The train was in the station. I also spoke to another resident who lives on Whittemore Street. I didn't put her in my article, who said she's noticed that the train will be heading to will go into the station and will be heading to Rockport, and the gate will come down again as well.
What I had heard, we interviewed Jeff Worthley yesterday, city council.
Oh yeah, Jeff, yes.
Yeah, and he has been talking to Keolis, who runs the MBTA, and said that there were 2 mechanisms in place, and one of them is a motion detector.
Yes.
And these gates act on that. So do you want to tell us what you know about that?
Yeah, so apparently there's two sensors involved in this. One for the telling the signal where the train is, and the other one when the train's in motion. So that's the question is, it has to be, and I think from Keolis's point of view, whether this is people intruding on the right of way. Maybe you have to sit there and watch the train, even if the gate comes up, to see if the train's coming in motion, and use a little bit of common sense and not go. The gate comes up again when the train goes into the station from Boston heading to Rockport, or the other way. No, sorry, on the other way around. They want to let the traffic flow, so the gate doesn't just stay down while the train is sitting at the station. It comes
So
up.
it's past the road. It's gone through the gate, and now it's sitting in the station, right?
Yeah, the train's coming from Rockport. It's in the station, and then it comes up again. Goes down, comes up. In other words,
If it's coming from Rockport, does it still have to go over that intersection?
yeah.
So
No, it's. I think the idea is
it should
that
stay
the
down.
idea is that when the train comes into the station from Rockport heading to Boston, and the gate comes down. Now you say, why do the gate come down if the train is stopping at Rockport? And there's a reason for that. There could be a runaway train. So the gate will come down. The train has not come over the Washington Street crossing.
Okay.
It's on Railroad Avenue, and it's picking up passengers. Then before it starts to move, the gates come up again. So it's stopped. That's the motion sensor. It's stopped. So the gate comes up because the train's not moving. That motion sensor ensures the gate comes down if there's a motion of the train. The train starts to move again.
And it comes down.
Then it comes down. The gate comes down again. So it's going up, it's coming down, stops traffic, train stops, comes up, train goes to move again, comes down.
Well, that does not seem like a good system.
And the train is supposed to creep. So when the train is leaving the Gloucester station, it's supposed to creep. That's the protocol.
So take away all the question marks and just leave the gate down.
Well, you'll have Grant Circle will be tied up. I mean, Washington Street was congested before before this happened. I mean, the thing that could be happening, and Keel says, is that I think the sentiment from them, or is that people are intruding on the gates. The gates are working properly as they should. Now, here's another thing that's happened. So by coincidence, over the weekend, after this happened with Steve Aiello, another car got hit. But on Sunday, the gates came down and stayed down. And people say, well, what's going on with it? Is that a malfunction? There's no trains coming through, but the gates come down. That's a safety feature. When there's any problem with the gates come down. If they stayed up and a train came through, you would have an accident.
So the gates are calling out for help. The gates are saying,
go,
there's a problem here.
Right. You don't want, if these gates are malfunctioning, you don't want the gate up.
Right.
Because if a train came through and they're not working, you would have an accident.
So the messaging is there's something wrong.
Right. So they come down, they have to send a crew out. So they have systems in place when the gate malfunctions. They have crews all over the state. They have 300 crossings like this. So when
That's all. I would think there might be more.
that's a lot. I mean, there's like 10 or 11 in Beverly.
Yeah. And how many in Gloucester? Do you know?
Oh, now you got me.
That's okay.
There's Washington Street, Cleveland Street. But let's just take this in isolation. People think that the gates are not working properly when they come down and stay down. That's a safety feature. They're actually working the way they should. So if you see the gates stuck down, don't get too frustrated, and please don't go around them.
Yeah,
That
right.
is
Don't
so
do that.
dangerous.
Right.
Don't try to drive through them. That is,
Okay, so where do we go from here with this problem? You and I can keep debating what's happening, but what's happening with the MBTA and the city? Are people having conversations?
well, I think this it sparked, maybe this wasn't more maybe the train company feels this is just an isolated incident and people are not figuring out how to drive around these gates properly, but it has triggered discussion. I think Jeff was going to meet with some not house member, but members of the joint committee on transportation. There's a joint committee in the legislature. Coincidental, because he wanted to talk about the gates, but then that comes. And then Val Gilman has told me that they want to ask the mayor to have a representative of Keolis to come on the MBTA to come to the council meeting and talk about this. Now, if there's so many of these incidents, it could be one of two things. There's a problem maybe with the timing of the gate, or after 2 years of the train being out of the city because of the $100 million Annisquam drawbridge reconstruction, people forgot how to drive through that crossing.
I don't know. Is this happening anywhere else?
I drive through Beverly a lot and the gates get stuck down. There are accidents, there are issues, but
this has
I don't
been
know.
many in 2 weeks.
Again, maybe it's just people forgot how to drive. Maybe they just need to put the stop line, move the stop line back.
Yeah, right.
It's tricky. It's like, I think the messaging that I'm getting is that people have to sort of be aware, like maybe the gate's up and the train is moving and they see that, it's really, I don't want to say dangerous crossing. I just want to say it's.
I have never seen a situation where there's a gate up and the train is moving.
Yeah.
I mean, that should not be it should not be left up to the public to judge. Should I go or not go? Or should I be, that's the reason these gates exist. Because
do you know one of the things that I learned is, when you're driving to the gates and you see this lights start flashing,
yeah,
you're supposed to stop when the lights start flashing, not when the gates come down. You're supposed to stop right there, and I think the instinct is to try to get through before the gates come down.
That is not the instinct.
No. I think it's like driver, you gotta really be, I think you're gonna be really cautious around these. The other thing is that what happens is people aren't leaving space. I mean, the thing is, when you go to drive through that gate, make sure there's enough space to get through. Even if the gate's up, don't drive through if you don't have space to get. I've seen that all the time. There's not traffic stops on Washington Street. People don't wait to the traffic to clear, and you're going to get stuck. You'll get stuck in the middle. So just hold back. Don't go through the intersection if you don't think.
I think we need to continue this story. We need to find out what the city.
I've gone on way too long on this.
Well, that's because I think we're arguing about, and it's.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
All
right, but let's follow up on this, because I'm sure the city will have conversations with Keolis and
Tuesday, city council. I haven't checked the agenda, but that's what I've been told.
Okay.
I haven't, I don't know, but
okay,
it's a good discussion.
Yeah, it is. All right. So what else is happening around the city? I know that you wrote a story about the community input to the $23 million in ARPA funds. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was really interesting. I think I was a little confused when I started reporting on the story, because I thought the mayor was going to sit there and tell me how he's going to spend the money after the listening group did its thing. And I was surprised. The listening group did not make any recommendations. They didn't say this is how you should spend the money. They had 5 sessions. They were hybrid. The listening group met in person and they listened to the public on Zoom. They had 60 people Zoom in, and people said, we need housing, which is, I was surprised. I thought maybe a sewer plant, but I think people were like, housing.
Yeah. Well, which is amazing, because in the wake of the 5 months of zoning amendment conversation, that was supposed to be not supplying affordable housing necessarily, but sort of varied housing. It was a housing subject for 5 months. And yet the city has come forth and said, yes, we need housing, right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone was arguing about that, and that was apparently the most prominent, topic. Infrastructure was also, up there. That sewage, they need a secondary wastewater plant.
Yeah.
They only have primary treatment. They've been operating under a waiver from the EPA for 40 years, and that waiver will not be renewed. That plant's going to cost $80 to $100 million. So they got a big chunk of money. It's not enough to pay for it, but we'll see how much the city allocate. He said, Mayor said he's going to allocate a chunk of that ARPA funding. It would probably, it's actually covered. It's one of the topics. Sewage infrastructure, water infrastructure is something that under this COVID recovery act, the ARPA funding, that's where you got to put the money toward. And some things aren't covered, but what they found was that the people's comments might serve as a guideline for future priorities. People wanted more attention to playgrounds and open spaces. Magnolia Woods was brought up. And also public health. Maybe this serves as a way to beef up the health department and the justification for that. But it's got to be. Problem is this money you just can't spend it on into the future.
It has a timer. There's a timer on it, right?
Yeah, the federal money has like a sell by date. So I think it's like 2 years to allocate it and another 2 years to get it all spent.
Right. And I wonder what using this money on affordable housing would look like.
I think they had talked about, right, I mean, I think there was rental assistance. Maybe it goes to the nonprofits who serve,
right,
the housing needs.
Wellspring, right.
Wellspring and Action.
Right.
Where housing is in the scope of their services. So what we're hearing though from the mayor is he's going to make a decision. He's going to make a decision soon, because it really isn't a lot of time to allocate the money. Probably has to. I don't think he has to go through the city council. There's no city council process. But he's got to get them. You got to spend it. And spending money in a city, you got to get things going to bid. It's over. So trying to spend money in government it's not as easy as I think. So he wants to make decisions this summer or early fall.
He has a tagline about this process, right?
Oh gosh, I can't do the most good for the most people in the most amount of time.
Yeah.
Which I thought was nice. That was a theme, and I think the committee did a good job of listening and then providing that it's a 54-page document. You can get it on the city's website. It's available, and most of it's just comments from people, just the raw comments. So if the mayor wants to go deep, do a deep dive, he can.
This is ward by ward. Is that how it works?
No, they did comments. I think there were some neighborhood meetings, but there was the 5 sessions, and they boiled down the comments for the mayor. So the mayor's going to read through and see what they said, and they grouped everything over with 7 categories. So it's really just data for the mayor to make a decision what he's going to do. And he said he's going to be open and transparent. This is not a city council process. I'm not going back to the city council. But he's got Councilor Tony Gross sort of on the committee, and he said he's going to tell the council how he's going to spend the money.
Great. Well, any more on that you want to add before we move on? We have one more subject.
Oh no, I think it's a good project. It's an open and transparent project, and we'll see. I bet a good chunk of it's going to go to the wastewater treatment plant.
Well,
that's a huge issue, and they still have to do the berm. There's still a project to do the berm as well.
Yeah, that's an old project, right?
It's an old project. It's money's.
They haven't done that yet, actually.
No.
Oh,
No.
wow.
COVID kind of, I think maybe
This
took
is the last administration that project.
Yeah,
Ground.
but these things take time. Engineering.
Yeah.
It's
Well, the other thing that's kind of interesting about the wastewater treatment plant is there is that conversation that is just beginning to happen, that they may have a community treatments that, communities might come together to all contribute to that treatment plan, because it serves Rockport and
Yeah.
Essex, definitely Essex. Rockport needs one.
Yeah, and I think that becomes a discussion about capacity. Yeah, but it's a good idea. I know that Congressman Moulton was in Gloucester not too long ago. There was a photo on the mayor's Facebook page. Hi, I'm with Moulton, and we're talking about wastewater. So maybe that conversation, it starts. Yeah. So I think there was some. I think I spoke to the mayor a few months ago about maybe having this be more of a regional project. But I think right now it's like so early. But it would make sense, right? It would make sense to have it much more to bring in as many partners as possible.
Yeah, and I think when last I talked to Senator Tarr in the 2023 budget, there was money put aside to start investigating this process and see.
Yeah, and Moulton also had in the appropriations subcommittees had got about, I think, $2 million.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good first step. That a good chance that gets funded.
Right. So it will be interesting to see how much the 23 million, how much of that needs to go to I'm sure in good faith, the city has to put up a pretty big chunk. So.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So the director of public health, Max Schenk, is retiring. You want to tell us what's going on there?
Yeah. I was kind of sad because when I started here in December, Max was one of the first people that I worked with, because COVID just happened to explode in the winter, and so we've had a lot of back and forth on emails, and I've watched some Board of Health meetings, and he's just for personal reasons. He and his wife were discussing retirement, and he didn't feel that he could go to the next step with strategic planning with the Board of Health.
Mm-hmm.
So, having worked with the Board of Health for the health department for about 16 years, he felt like that it would, if he was considering retirement, that it'd be better to step aside and let the new person take over. They were looking to hire somebody. I guess they were an interim. Karen Carroll had left she left the administration last year after 5 years. And they had gone through the hiring process. It didn't pan out. They hired Max, and he's got a wealth of knowledge in that department. A lot of it is on the Title V side. Yeah, he'll be missed, but we have a new public health nurse, Kate Cunningham, and Rachel Bilal-Toller, who's taken the lead on the Creek investigation, is now the assistant health director. So there's a lot of continuity there too.
Yeah. So just to finish that thought, so they are going to hire a new public health director, but how do we say Bilal-Toller?
Rachel Bilal-Toller. Yeah, she was an inspector. She was promoted to assistant health director. That was the role that Max had played for a long time in the department. So she's been all over the Good Harbor Creek investigation. I mean, really hands-on on that.
Yeah.
So
any answers there yet?
There was some information at City Council not long ago. They're looking for a short duration rain event to see if it's combined sewer overflow. Maybe there's some sort of infiltration. That's what they're suspecting.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful. You don't want to just pin the blame on the sewers, but that's what they're investigating. But they need a certain rain event to confirm what they're thinking. And they've got a few areas in mind.
Okay.
Because it's historically high. You don't get, colony forming units. It's like usually it's 104, so it's safe for the beach to open.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got like 14,000. They had a reading of 14,000. It's off the charts. They have over 2 decades of data. It's never been that high. So it's not the dogs. It's the dogs. The dogs are going down there. No. Dogs have always been going down there. It's not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, back to the public health director. So Rachel Belle Isle Toller will be stepping in until they hire a new public health director. Is that right?
Yeah, I spoke to Joe Rosa, the chairman, and I think that process is going to move forward pretty soon to find a new director. They've already been interviewing, so I think it's a matter of it's going to be happening this summer. So she's just in the interim, just helping out. And
'Cause we
Max
need
is
her on
leaving.
that creek, and
Huh?
we need her on that creek in Pavilion Beach, right?
There is nobody more dedicated to any city or town project that I've ever known. I mean, she's out there when they're doing the testing. She's putting up signs on the
Yeah.
beach,
Yeah.
and that shows a lot of hands-on leadership there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk to her next week, but
Oh, great, excellent! I got to watch that. That'll be great.
yeah, but we do have to add that she will be arriving just in time for BA5, right? The new variant.
Yes, and my significant other just got over the dreaded COVID. I was at home for a week and a half while I got a negative PCR test, and I had it in May.
I remember.
Yeah. I don't know what the messaging is about. I think people have just dropped their guard.
I think
Joe
so.
Biden, I think I just saw something on CNN. Joe Biden has COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think maybe the message is hopefully we're all vaccinated. And so we're not sort of unprotected like we were when the virus first hit. So
Right. But this is affecting vaccinated and boosted people, including the president.
it's not that you're not going to get it, but it's the illness. My wife didn't even. I had the antiviral when I had it in May, and she was too far along, and she just went through her course. But she had a booster not long ago.
Was she ill? Did she?
Yeah, she's really ill. I mean, she's basically a week in bed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you just don't want it to happen.
No, it's awful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ethan, we covered a lot of ground today. Thank you so much for all of it. Thanks for your reporting and for meeting with me.
Hope I didn't prattle on too long.
Now,
Thanks,
I don't
Heather.
think you did. I think you covered the stories perfectly. All right, we'll see you next week, okay? And we'll follow up on the gate.
Oh, gate. Oh my God, I'm going to use that.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.